Мы продолжаем серию наших эфиров, посвященных образованию в информационной
We
безопасности.
continue
Я попрошу
talking
представить
about education in information security. I would like to ask our guests of the studio to introduce themselves. Ivlev Oleg Pavlovich, Dean of the Cybernetics and Security Faculty, Me2C. Shamil Magomedov, Deputy of IKB for Information Security, RTU Mira. Dmitry Gusev, Deputy CEO in the company Infotex.
Спасибо, что откликнулись, пришли на эфир.
Glad to see you. Thank you for replying, coming to this broadcast. The topic is very important for each one of us, and we are working with all of you on this topic. So I have invited you as people
Повышение
who
качества образования в сфере информационной безопасности.
knows how is it important to increase the level of quality of education in the information security.
Нашей страны
It's not a secret that employers in our country
качеству подготовки
have certain amount of problems with the quality of training of the specialists. It's not only the work of the higher school, it's also related to SPO, the retraining programs. A lot of questions, and they are justified because the industry and all the technologies that I'm calling in information security, they develop the volume of attacks, and this year it grows significantly, and we understand that we don't have enough of specialists, and those specialists that we have, they don't have enough qualification to resist growing amount of threats. So I would like to ask you a first question, related first of all to the higher school, because we have two representatives of this direction of education. Similar situation is happening with education not in the course of the first year, and I've been speaking about the problems and claims from the side of an industry to the quality. That's why we have state standards, and everything entails something else. One entails another, but at the output, we have the result that we have. Even though, well, I would like to hear your opinion. What doesn't work in this system? Because someday it has been working and everything was good enough, but what is wrong right now, to your point of view? What is missing? What can be corrected? Oleg Pavlovich, the question is to you. Thank you very much, Maria. About the situation that you've been speaking about, yes, everything is like that, and the situation is same. About the quality of education, the opinion is not changing, but about the situation, well, we could criticize, we could say negative things about everything, and all the stakeholders of this process, they could argue about it, but we should begin with ourselves. Because many things in solution of this objective depends at the university, depends on how do they organize their work with employers, how they organize the educational process. I think that the mechanism which is being exercised in our university, in my faculty, is the only proper one. It's a realization of educational programs in really working equipment with participation of specialists, employers, and retraining of educators, and of course regular practices in the company's operators and our students. And this is the first component. The second component, which is the additional one to this one, it's a system of faculty trainings which are happening after the school or during the weekends. So these are sections starting from CTF, CF, and reverse engineering. Thank you, Shamil. What about you? What about your story with building educational programs? How do you look at state standards? Is it helping you or not helping you? Well, about constant problems from the side of the employers, I would reply in the following way. I would divide it into two parts. The first part, what is being done by the educational organization. The second part, what is being done by the company which has these problems. Well, the educational part, We are overregulated. So we have the educational plan, and we're speaking about the information security specialty. We look in all the directions, all the specialty and all the directions. So we do the training plan. We approve it only once. In the course of the whole process of development, we cannot change it. We have a certain part which can help them to select certain disciplines. They have facultatives, but globally we cannot change this plan. And in the course of these 4 to 5 years, the stack can change. And initially, we've been training people on one specialization like computer forensics. And relatively speaking, we've been thinking about operational Windows machines. But right now, we decided to get away from Windows, and right now we need to work with Linux. But we cannot switch to Linux as fast as that. So from this point of view, we are regulated from the point of view of state standards, accreditation. We are constantly being told that we should have methodological requirements as it was developed from the very beginning. That's how we're supposed to hold it. Nevertheless, we are trying to get out of this problem. Like our colleague was speaking about some additional classes, organizing CTF, participation in those, attracting interested partners and positive technologies. Thank you very much. And right now I would like to say that I have approximately 5 people of employees from positive technologies, and they find time and they combine their work with teaching. Thank you very much. Thanks to them, we are in the biggest approximation to the requirements for the students, and as for the graduation, we are closest from the quality point of view of education. It's not really nice sometimes to hear from the organization, please give us a specialist who is completely trained, but what you do to help training them, your practical exercises, agreements that we are trying to build with them, because we have big volumes of students who are not ready to do that, who are not ready to understand that they would go to this practical experience, and finding this person, it's very difficult for them. They don't have enough resources for that. But how can you require for us to create 100% ready specialists if you are not helping us with this? Dmitry, this is a rock into our garden. Let's speak about what stops the companies to go ahead to the universities and hire specialists for internships who are getting ready for graduation from universities. It's a very simple answer, and not a nice one for both sides, both for university and potential employer. Existing requirements, state requirements for student registration for the internship are such so that no employee will go for these requirements. Why? Because in this case, you will not be involved in mentoring activities, but you will follow the student as a physical entity. God forbid for him to eat something, God forbid for him to do something, etc., etc. On one side, we understand what these requirements are coming from, but one can see that right now they are dominating, and you get adults coming to your company. Even to those adults, state requires to take a lot of additional actions and procedures that should be taken, which are overlaying the main objective, which would be given by the employer to find a workplace, to find a mentor that would mentor the student. That's why our company, Infotex, decided not to participate in official internship programs out of principle. Yes, we just invite students as physical entities independently from university position. Yes, we do cooperate with university, but we are telling them that we are not going to sign for official internship program. We have our own internship program, and we're able to effectively do it in such a way so that most of people who come to us, they go through the initial sieving. More than 80% are being hired by us. And right now, our own internship platform is the main source of young employees. Well, as a moderator and representative of the employer, I would like to continue this story of Dmitry and partially something that Shamil was speaking about. Big number of students assumes big number of mentors, and we all perfectly understand that the company is involved in main type of activity, and separating big number of specialists to work with these young employees basically is impossible, not always possible. The company have big loads, different companies that have different of them. For some of them it's the end of the year, for some of them it's some particular events the company is getting ready for in the course of the year. And when university sends a request for the internship for their students, for their specialists in the format of like week or two prior to this, and we have 20 people to send to the internship, sometimes company has no possibility to provide any resources from their side because all these resources are involved in the production activities of the company. So what Shamil was speaking about, a strict educational plan and what has to be realized by university from one side and the work of the employee from another side, they go one beside another. So it's very difficult to make the connection between them. Possibly we can change something. Possibly you have some thoughts in a format of projection. If I could change it, I would do it this and this way. What do you think, dear colleagues? How can you move this situation? I completely agree with you and with Dmitry's position. Honestly, the company, first of all, is a business. Business should be effective. And that's why you can understand the employer's company who try to minimize their own resources, human or financial resources, by approving or improving the graduates or students. Well, possibly if we are speaking about standard production practices, those that are continuing from 3 to 6 weeks, then yes, unfortunately, it shows its little efficiency, and the main reasons for this is mass character and one-time opportunities. Well, the company with all the desire cannot transfer the competencies of their own specialists into the brains of our kids for such a short period of time. Yes, it is a problem. So we have to find specialists who will constantly be mentoring them. That's why one of the ways how this situation can be avoided is not to look at this production practice which stably defined in a learning plan. We should approve it between the university and the company, your practical graph, and this can be conducted after the training. Yeah, and you can approve every schedule and the graph and the form and candidates which are coming directly to the company. So in given case, you can provide to the company possibility of choice. Not all 20 should be taken, but 15 which are going to go through certain selective tests. Yes, exactly. Because this would be my second question, because in the framework, and Dmitry is going to support me, when we select guys for this training, we do have certain sieving. It's important for us to receive not only those who have certain skills and set of knowledge, but also those who want and those who are ready to dedicate to the work and to the employment a certain amount of time in order to get necessary objectives. And sometimes it also pushes away from that program of practical internships which are available in universities. Take everybody like a cat in the bag. Maybe those guys, they need to go to another company, and it's also really painful for the employer, not very convenient one. So then the question is really understandable. Then we also heard a story that you currently are training students for technological solutions to and the solutions of technological partners. Previously, well, year, 2 years ago, in many of our universities, we did have laboratories of our Western vendors, which were available in the Russian market. Some labs, some schools, like Samsung had it, other companies had it, but I think you also had them in your universities. Yes, of course. So they left, they got closed. You know, maybe we've been lucky, but in my faculty, the training for 10 best positions since the beginning, it was conducted with the involvement of local equipment. So our partners like Positive Technologies, Kaspersky Lab, Infotex group of companies, Echelon, they offer the full set of the equipment and competencies and methodological materials in order for us to work normally. Yes, there is a company, Cisco, which left the market. There is a company, Huawei, which is not really active right now. However, we do have a replacement for this. We have Elbrus. You have lab that works with Elbrus computers? What about you? How did you solve this problem? If you allow me, you've asked the question. Yeah, it's a painful question. If it would be your will, what would you replace? Well, I will reply to this question. If I could change something in the system, the first thing that I would change, I would make a proper training curricula where 70% would be stiff and 30% would be possible to correct within the training process. Then it would be wonderful. Then we see that stack is changing. Then we could add something to this program. The second one related to the internship. And we did face this problem and we've discussed it. And it's not very convenient for many companies. Yes, we are really connected for this internship, spring, summer internship, diploma, curriculum, and only for the 5th grade university students. So if we could make it flexible, if we could take these 2 weeks and extend it for the requirements of the company, that would be much better. And the final topic about state companies, everything's good about them, but we are regulated by different computer classes and labs, which should be in the framework of a certain specialty. Well, and I'm missing, for example, if together with Impotex and you and a number of other vendors, if we would have a separate lab, which jointly, together with you, would develop things like that, like 10.05.05. We make lab like this, which works for this and these solutions. For 10.05.03, we make another lab. In order to approve it by the vendors themselves, if we did it, I think this would be much more comfortable and we would have much more opportunities to train good employees. As for the vendors, I will try to give you the answer. In addition to the local vendors, in the security, we don't have any problems. We're well represented. But an example of our own company, we've been contacting with IBM and we've been contacting with Checkpoint. But because they left, well, we have not been damaged too much. And maybe it's even good. There are less companies to work with and we can closely work with other companies and you do not get diluted to other companies. So we're not suffering from this. But even more, we see that vendors and domestic companies, they look better at us and they are ready to invest more into us and pay more attention to us. That's why we're only just happy. Okay, colleagues, as representatives of Moscow universities, they suffer much less than representatives of universities from regional areas, and they have their own pay. And very often I meet with teachers of those universities, and sometimes I hear stories that people have to look at some vendor solutions that we give them. For example, they have a license on our products. They've been teaching those teachers, and teacher is telling us that, well, when I've been learning about this product, I had 20 students standing behind me and asking me, how am I doing this? It reminds me Africa in pre-missionary periods when they've been teaching kids how to speak English. So they're missing infrastructure. they don't have sufficient amount of vendors which would have these solutions or would support it. So what is to be done by those universities so that vendors
ИБ-компании российского рынка приходили в вузы.
and the information security companies would come to universities? Can you share with me this know-how?
Мария, вы знаете,
Maria, do you know?
здесь рецепт, наверное, простой.
The recipe is a simple one. Things that you told me about regional universities,
Но это же основная
this is a very complicated situation, but this is the biggest amount of students. Yes, it's the biggest amount of students. And the simplest recipe for all the universities which have the access to everything. From university, it is required to have constant work, daily, detailed work with their partners. Earlier or later, this does bring good result. And it's not a position of somebody requesting and asking, but it's a relationship that is built between the employer and university. And this relationship should be built on mutual interests. Well, there's a lot of examples. For example, for the Kaspersky Lab, we've done a lot of educational materials, and jointly we developed a template for Empire platform. Different expert operations are done. So the recipe, you shouldn't be afraid to go to the company yourself. I can add to this an example. Well, one of the subsidies that we have in artificial intelligence, we have 5 regional partners which are not from Moscow universities, and where we are developing master's and bachelor's programs, qualification improvement programs, and we are sharing our own competencies. If something similar will be done in information security, then we would be able to share this with regional universities. And I'm not saying that they are so weak. They are teachers and good students and good graduates. And of course, the best salaries are in Moscow, but with those projects, grants, and subsidies, we will be able to share our best practices with you. Maybe we should think together about this, because we do see such a request from universities. I mean, I'm speaking about regional universities. They need help, they need assistance. And first of all, assistance to work with unique technologies which are highly demanded by the market, and then transfer these to students. Dmitry, can you tell us, please, how do you build your work with universities, not only with Moscow ones, but also with the regional ones? What the company does in order for the regional universities, students to work with these Infotex products? We do everything which is possible to be done as a commercial organization. We do work with universities for quite a while. And all over the country, we're using these universities. We use our products for the construction of our training processes. However, what should we pay attention to? The ratio of useful utilization. The further away from Moscow, the lesser is this ratio. Why? First of all, this is because of global deficit of good teachers. And this is a big pain, and you have to do something about it on the level of the state, and you should put it into the national idea. That's my sincere opinion. You shouldn't search for national idea somewhere out there in the depth of centuries. Put education as a cornerstone, because it gives technologies, skills, and technological independence that we are all striving for. So, my apologies. So, if we are going to go down to the practical level, if we understand it on the level of national idea, so what assistance would be necessary from the side of the state? And if we're not speaking specifically, but I'm speaking about Moscow universities with more technical provisioning, but speaking about universities in Russia, Well, I did have an idea, and I will support it completely. Idea related with adding more freedom to our acting educational standards, freedom for educational facilities. We should choose ourselves how to build educational programs outside of basic education. That's number one. Number two, find a freedom, give a freedom to the students themselves so that students shouldn't be pulled for their hand to go to the company like Positive and you, Vladimir, will go to Infodex. No, Peter and Vladimir should choose themselves where to go. On several occasions, we did have open door days, and not many people are coming. And for this, we are not just requiring initiative from our side or from the side of universities, but we need some public initiative so that the state and universities would be pushed in this direction. And we, from our side, we are going to support this level of openness so that when students are coming to us, they would see the company as some open front face, and we can talk to the specialists and understand for ourselves whether it's interesting for me, because am I ready to come and spend my time which was given to me in the framework of this program for this free education internship. Can I spend it for this company, or if I don't like it I will go to another company? We should have this possibility of choice. Then I can think about working in certain company. Existing boundaries are very well. The person could be able to understand something. These 2 weeks are about nothing. People will just remember you which corridor and which room you should go. But you should participate in real working processes. For example, our internship might take 3-4 months. When the person, the team of developers tries to do something with their own hands, they understand how the work of the developing company is working, not for some. It's not possible to do it within 2-3 weeks. And finally, I'm sorry, I will finish, but what would be useful for the state? State. Definitely, we have to increase salaries for teachers. And first of all, in regions, because they have a global problem with it. Because when we are preparing some teachers for regional universities, then with high level of probability, the person leaves to another job. The person has to leave, he has a family or she has a family, and they need to leave with a small salary to some end company. And many companies are using the same thing. It's not their problem, but it's their opportunity. But it's a problem for us as a state that we are losing the headcount, and then we start learning new fairy tales for new bachelors. Time is spent. Practical companies from the side of the top management of the university, in order to tell a person that he will learn, we will invest into you, and then at least work a couple of years for us. Well, at least go to us. That's a big problem. Okay, thank you very much, dear colleagues. I think that we will continue this discussion afterwards, because this topic is a very important topic, and we would like to hear opinion of each one of you. So thank you very much for this discussion. And I would like to remind to our visitors that at the Standoff 365 site, you can go through the public poll about the quality of education, educational programs, the needs in increasing the qualification in specific directions which you would like to study. Okay, thank you very much.